If I hadn't legitimately forgotten the name of today's game in front of the store clerk, I would have pretended to. It would have been preferable to avoid the embarrassment of muttering the discombobulation of words that is 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim in public. Any doubt I had that this game was Japanese was eradicated 30 seconds in as a naked high school girl becomes the pilot of a giant robot. Japan, why is it always giant robots? They just look like toys, handcrafted for maximum purchase power. To be fair, 13 Sentinels does acknowledge that big bloody action figures would be highly impractical in any real-world combat. At least androids make sense. While it might seem a little overblown and pointless to make a robot look like a human, at least you can, fuck them. What? I complain about video games on the rutting internet. Do you think I've got a girlfriend? 13 Sentinels is a mecha story set in a high school, and while that might sound like the most generic anime premise you can think of, it somehow feels fresh. Rather than being the cliche high school drama, Sentinels presents like Back to the Future meets 2001: A Space Odyssey. Another unexpected and pleasant twist is that the game is packed with as many sci-fi tropes as an Activision game is with microtransactions. Furthermore, the vibrant, distinct, and downright gorgeous visual style turns every frame into a moving oil painting, separating it from its cliche premise. Oh no, I'm gushing, aren't I? I'm gonna be frank. Hi, my name's Frank. This is my game of the year, unless Cyberpunk 2077 ends up offering a free head job for a pre-order bonus. Do you know how hard it is to write this review without coming off as a Wojak soy face? I'm normally the anti-establishment cool kid who thinks hyping up a video game inevitably makes one sound like they're into Funko Pop collecting and cuckolding. 13 Sentinels is, well, very pretty. When 2D looks this good, it's yet another reminder that the polygon arms race is nothing but a total waste of time. 13 Sentinels made a very exclusive list, Japanese games I can recommend to normies. The game is a good gateway drug, if only because, unlike 80% of games from Japan, it's not softcore porn, and neither is it cringe. There are, of course, points where the game does get a little cheesy. At the end, for example, where everybody gives their heroic Saturday morning cartoon speeches while summoning their mechs, posing and looking away from the camera. By that point, however, 13 Sentinels had earned it. In any case, the game is an excellent way to weeb pill your friends. Sit the unexpecting fools down, hook them in with a wanky art style, and then watch as the story unflinchingly fists several plot point suppositories directly up their bum. There'll be Naruto running before you know it. In the end, the game's biggest strength is that it's a page-turner. The story, told through brief mini-chapter-like segments, requires the player to constantly switch back and forth between the titular 13 protagonists in order to unravel the mystery. While some of the segments are only a couple of minutes long, all end on a cliffhanger, giving the story a satisfying binge-watching kind of vibe. Unsurprisingly, the game's story sounds like a fucking nightmare on paper. After maybe an hour, I showed Sentinels to a friend. I found that describing even one of the simpler character arcs made me sound like someone on a Facebook community notice board explaining why 5G towers spread the Rona. Yes, I have a friend, don't be jealous. The task of juggling 13 protagonists, dealing with complex sci-fi bullshit, and simultaneously choosing how to proceed through the story could have easily obliterated any pacing and structure. 13 Sentinels pulls it off. The protagonists are all interesting and unique, goals are established quickly, and the time travel is a fun mechanic to get them all out of their comfort zone. The inevitable sci-fi bullshit explanations are presented through natural enough dialogue, and the story constantly raises attention, keeping the player engaged despite the find-your-own-way story branches. Additionally, it's a breath of fresh air to have several relationships throughout the story. In anime, it can seem that either the protagonist has some kind of magic power that attracts every fanny within a 30-kilometer radius, or is doomed to court the canon girl, the least interesting character in the entire cast. In 13 Sentinels, everyone gets a bit of action. Basic math states that at least 12 characters do anyway. While the romance did feel a bit forced at times, I'll take it over another shitty harem any day. While Sentinels is at heart a visual novel, there's a moderate amount of gameplay consisting of something like a strategy RPG meets a tower defense game. It's fun, though not challenging. I breezed through the entire game. This isn't necessarily to its detriment, however. It can be very gratifying to obliterate a small army with an overpowered ability like a mini nuke, only to upgrade said mini nuke to absurd levels and break the game. It reminded me of the Trails of games, where half the fun is finding frivolous exploits to see how big of a damage number you can get. I would be lying if I didn't have any minor gripes with the game, and because I'm lazy, I compiled them into a list. The tutorials are tad long, probably more than a few plot holes. The game HUD's a bit busy, the gameplay's scenery is repetitive, repetitive and boring compared to the visual novel sections. Japanese names are hard to remember. The English dub makes all the characters sound like they're straight out of High School Musical, and it won't win Game of the Year because no one is willing to announce such a stupid name on stage. In the end, I almost felt guilty playing 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. It seems I've come to associate the act of playing a game for review with boredom and occasionally mild torture. This game, conversely, was never a chore. Sentinels was a welcome reminder that these video game things can actually be fun. Once I've finished reviewing a game, I have to think about what to play next, and generally that's not too hard. After I've played something I enjoy, I look for something similar. When I play something truly great, on the other hand, I tend to get a certain emotional numbness, at least more so than usual. I know that in my search for something similar, I will undoubtedly realise that there's nothing else quite like it, resulting in a familiar yet sad epiphany that I'll never really scratch that same itch again. Well, until the Japanese make another big robot game set in a high school next week.